Hello guys, welcome to the Whiskey Diaries. My name is Martin Lang, we're here at Death in Texas, and today we are going to be talking about Shinobu. Shinobu is a Japanese whiskey in the prefecture of Niigata, in 200 kilometers away from Tokyo, in the South Island of Japan. Now, Niigata prefecture is very famous for three things. There are the three whites, which is rice, sake, and the snow, and they have access to pretty pristine water as well. Shinobu started in 2016, so at the moment they haven't been distilling, they haven't released a whiskey that they distill themselves, rather than whiskeys that the master distillers source around the world. In particular, I believe it's Scotland. This one in particular, the one that we're going to be talking about the blended and the 10-year-old. But the interesting part about this whiskey in particular is the finishing. The finishing they do after they pick the whiskies from around the world and then blend them together, they finish the whiskey in Mizunara cask. Now, Mizunara is actually really interesting because it's a really hard wood to work with. The tree itself doesn't grow upright; it actually twists and stuff, so that makes the stave really hard to use. Mizunara actually means water tree as well in Japan, which makes the reason why it's called that is because the wood in itself is actually quite porous and it doesn't seal as well as American oak. American oak has a really tight seal, which means that nothing leaks. Now, the reason why they started using Mizunara casks is because in the Second World War, after they lost the war, they actually could not get many supplies from around the world. So then, and also, as you might know from the other channel video that we did, barrels were used to basically export and import everything you could imagine. Now, they couldn't get any of the other oaks because nothing got shipped to Japan, so they started using their own type of Mizunara oak. The other reason why Mizunara is so hard to use and all that stuff is because you're not allowed to cut a tree that is less than 200 years old in Japan. So when they cut too many trees, actually they suspend the license to most of the distilleries, so you can't get that oak. Now, a Mizunara oak nowadays goes for almost $6,000, and they're really, really hard to get. So this basically new distillery is aging the whiskey, finishing the whiskey in Mizunara oak. Now, people say in Japan, they say that to really impart the proper flavor from a Mizunara, you need to age the whiskey anything from 15 to 20 years. Obviously, a lot of whiskies are not doing that. Like, for instance, the Bourbon Mizunara cask finish that sells for $1,000 or more, they only finish the whiskey for a couple of months. So it's a little bit of a balance, and you really need to know what you're doing. So going back to the whiskey, Shinobu means patience, or there's a couple of other variations of what the actual word means, but what they want to point at is the word patience, because making whiskey requires a lot of patience. Now, this one we're going to try today, well, we're going to try the two of them. There's another version as well that is a 15-year-old, but today we're going to be trying the whiskey, the blended one, or talking about the blended, that, as I said, is 50-50, and then gets aged in Mizunara casks. It has no added coloring or anything like that, so what you get from the bottle, what you see is what you get. And then the other one that we're going to actually try is a 10-year-old, again, Mizunara casks as well. Now, you can see the difference in color in this one, obviously being a lot older. Also, it's worth saying as well that the whiskies that they're sourcing are a mix between sherry cask and American oak. Again, I couldn't find any of the source of the distillery, but apparently the master distiller from the place actually traveled all around the world trying to source it. Now, Mizunara oak imparts a very particular flavor to the whiskey. Depending on how long you put it in there, most of the times you get like a lot of coconut, seaweed, and yeah, it's a very, very interesting flavor that you get. It's very subtle also. You get like some sort of green tea as well. Now, as well, the distillery, I forgot to mention as well, is very close to the coast. So some of the flavors and some of the notes that you can get from this one is almost similar to something like you would get from Ala or even Sky or something like that, where like even regardless that the whiskey is not most smoky in itself, it actually gets a salty from the air from being close to the coast. This is absolutely stunning. This guy's also won in 2020 best world whiskey in the world. So it's actually really, really good whiskey. And yeah, there you go. Definitely this coconut notes there. Also like almost like coconut water, like freshly cut, like you know when you go to Bali or something like that, you just cut a coconut right there. Yeah, it's like salty coconut. It's literally like having a coconut water sitting on the beach on a windy day. That's delightful. Anyway guys, thank you very much for listening. Slanjaba.